Here's a great setup. This might not work at all. It's tough, but I think there's promise. In a dumbed down, my opinion, in a dumbed down entertainment world of hot takes and explosions and stuff, I think we're going to get something different. And the first question is, I know this is weird, but the first question is, do you give Nicolas Cage, I said Nicolas Cage, I did. Do you give him a chance to pull off John Madden? I said John Madden and Nicolas Cage. I know. Do you give the movie titled Madden a good chance? I mean, can you sell it, right? Anybody under the age of what? Well, all ages know the name Madden. That's what's most amazing. I think that's the real discussion here. But can you give the movie much of a chance? Could you sell this movie and the concept? It's not, I got to tell you, it's not for lack of trying here. So it's interesting. It is. Everything about the life and times of John Madden is interesting. And you can feel free to disagree all you want, but here goes. John Madden, and I don't know if this works in a movie. I'll be honest. It'll be interesting to see how you can pull it off to make it interesting to a broad brush. And maybe it's not possible. But John Madden is one of the most influential media personalities, one of the most influential media people of our lifetime. And I know that sounds crazy, but I can back that up. His handprints over your lifetime of media are unlike almost anyone else. And I'm happy to back that up, and I'm happy to throw out other names. But when you think about it, John Madden is one of the most influential media personalities of our lifetime. He's influential on a number of levels. So conceptually, the movie makes sense. I mean, here's a guy who has, I don't care what generation we're talking about. It doesn't matter. It is an amazing reach of multiple generations in multiple ways, unlike anyone I can think of, except maybe Steve Jobs. And yeah, somehow, some way, I've just put John Madden and Steve Jobs together. So hear me out on this. He's on, to me, any and all influential lists that you make. If you ask me, and I'm happy to do this, I don't have it written down anywhere, but if you ask me to list the most influential media people, media personalities and all that stuff, you didn't ask me for that, but I'll do it anyway. Because I do put him in this category. I do. And here are a few names. And I think the most influential media people, personalities, strategists, tech, whatever, it doesn't mean it has to be great content. It doesn't mean it has to be content that you've liked or people that you even want to like. That's not what I'm saying. But I think this list, and it does include John Madden, and I'm sure I'm leaving some people off, but I think this list, in terms of influential in your lifetime, it starts with Steve Jobs, particularly when you talk about media and entertainment. He is by far the most influential media person of your lifetime. He changed his products, his vision, changed how we consume media, entertainment, and news. Completely changed us. Howard Stern goes on that list. Like or dislike, doesn't matter. Rush Limbaugh goes on that list. Like or dislike, doesn't matter. The names Jawed, what's his name? Yaram, I think. Chad Hurley and Steve Chin, that means nothing to you? Well, those are the guys that started YouTube. They're on that list. It's completely changed the way you get media and consume media as well. They were the original creators, back in 2005 or 6? The original creators of ESPN. Scott and Bill Rasmussen, I think were their names. They're on that list. Now, I mean, you can go down the list and name actors and entertainers and stuff, and I'm talking about absolutely changed media and the course of media and entertainment in your lifetime. And all those people are on that list. And John Madden as well. Very much on that list. His handprints are all over. If you think about your lifetime of media and entertainment, right? His handprints are all over it. His handprints are all over your kids and grandkids' entertainment. His coaching is all over your dad or granddad's entertainment. It's just such an amazing setup of a career. So think about Madden's career, John Madden's career. Okay? He's an amazing story. Can it be a great movie? That I don't know. I mean, the story, the influence, the iconic personality sounds like a great movie. I just don't know if you can pull it off. And can Nick Cage even look like him and sound like him? Well, the pictures that came out in the last couple of days, they've done something with Nick Cage to make him look a lot like John Madden. It's pretty remarkable. So he was a highly successful coach of an iconic franchise. And it's hard for people to remember when the Raiders were iconic, but when Madden was coaching the Raiders were iconic. It was one of the most successful franchises in any team sport in the 70s. So he was, for a time period, and really the way he launched his career and salvaged his career. He leaves coaching at a young age. He's burned out. And you know what launched John Madden? A Miller Lite commercial. He was, for a time period, the most successful pitchman in media. That campaign that started with John Madden, Tastes Great, Less Filling, when he burst through a sign, that was one of the most successful ad campaigns, of that time period. And it launched him. Then, of course, he becomes the most popular, the most successful, and most iconic analyst of all time. Again, you can argue who's better, what you like better. I'm just saying that, if you're talking about trailblazers in media and entertainment in your lifetime, John Madden is there in a bunch of different ways. And one of them is as an analyst. He reinvented, I would argue a little bit that the original Monday Night Football crew, not the original, I guess the second Monday Night Football crew with Cosell, Gifford, and Don Meredith they weren't as popular as Madden became because there's a little bit more of an edge to them. So someone like me would enjoy their entertainment value even more than John Madden. But they created the whole analyst thing because analysts became rock stars, right? And Madden took it to another level. And he was the rock star analyst, the first we knew of, the first one, right? It's like screaming at the screen to in agreement or not. Doesn't matter. You had to listen. You had to watch. That's what's iconic. And he was the first rock star analyst that then created the whole genre of analysts being as important, if not more important, in the game. There's plenty of bad ones. But you wouldn't have Tony Romo getting rich. You wouldn't have Aikman. You wouldn't have Greg Olson, who I think is the best in the business now, or even Tom Brady would not get the contract that he got. $37 million and some change from Fox for 10 years, as bad as he is, and he sucks at it. But there's no way those guys make the kind of money they do if John Madden had not been the rock star and turned the job into a rock star job. I mean, I'm now running through a list of things and think how much he impacted it. He impacted football in the 70s with the Raiders. They had a different kind of style, different kind of vibe. I mean, he's an iconic franchise. And then he did it as a pitchman. Then he does it as a rock star analyst. And then there you go, the video game. I'm like, you can just go through generations of your family in the different time and the different handprints that John Madden would have had. And then you get to the video game, which is now going on, what is it now, 20-something years? No, more than that probably. 30-something? So, and you would say, well, he's just the name behind the video game. Yeah, but there's a point to adding his name. He was so iconic and so recognizable, and he did have some say in the original game itself, that there's generations of people, your kids and grandkids, who don't know John Madden, the coach, who don't know John Madden, the analyst. They don't even know who that is, but it's Madden. I mean, that game, here's how important I think that game was, and Madden being a part of it. And that is, I think the video game, whether you're a game nerd or not, you think it's any good. I mean, I'm not even debating that. What I'm going to say is I think the video game and how it was presented and how we consumed it for generations, I think it reinvented how we watch football. I think it reinvented how we talk about sports. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we live in a world of love and addiction of fantasy football largely because we have generations that have grown up with the numbers, right? The Madden game was just about numbers. I think it taught us to be addicted to football about the numbers, which made us addicted to fantasy football about the numbers. It's the reason why. And the game, not by itself, but I think the game had this impact. I think the game was like an entree to how we are addicted to fantasy football. While those numbers are scrolling across the screen, and those numbers are more important to half of the people out there watching than the game itself. I think a lot of that had to do with the Madden the game. So there's my argument for John Madden, the icon, John Madden, the handprint. I mean, I know it's weird. You're going to say, wait, Ward, let me be clear about this. You got a list of Steve Jobs, the YouTube guys, and John Madden. Yeah. In different ways, yeah, absolutely. So the story is huge. His life is huge. Can it be a good movie? Let me tell you what it's about and who is in it, and you got to like their chances. This is from Yahoo News this morning. Get a first look at Nicolas Cage's NFL legend John Madden, and get this, Christian Bale as Al Davis. And I don't know how big that role will be, because it's just, I don't know how many people anymore know the Al Davis story, which is, it sort of worked perfectly with Madden. You know, they were friends, and Al Davis, you know, in a world of kind of soft suck-ups of present day, you know, Al Davis was the bad guy of the NFL. He was the renegade of the NFL. He was the guy constantly suing the NFL, fighting with the NFL, accusing the NFL of rigging everything, moving from city to city. And then ultimately, in this kind of weird to compare, ultimately the game that he knew so well, the strings that he pulled so well, you know, it ultimately caught up with him in the French, and the Raiders became a ridiculously pathetic franchise. He got too old. And if you say there's comparisons to the Cowboys, I don't think you're wrong. The visionary of the franchise just got too old and out of touch. But so I don't know how big his role can be, because I just don't think that many people know the Al Davis story. And he was pretty iconic, right? I mean, I remember playing in training camp. I think I played against the Raiders a few times, and he would walk around. We laugh at Jerry Jones, right? Walking around, giving pep talks and stuff. We laugh at him. Al Davis would walk around the same way, but he would wear either all white or all black. And it looked like he was about ready to send the mobsters in to knock off a bank. It was, you couldn't miss him. It was interesting. So Christian Bale is going to play. Nicolas Cage is going to play John Madden. Christian Bale, who is great, is going to play Al Davis. Let's see. The film follows Madden's remarkable journey, according to the studio, from his Super Bowl winning partnership with Al Davis and the Raiders to creating Madden NFL and becoming one of the most iconic voices in football history. All that stuff's true. I don't know how you make the creation of a video game interesting. I don't know. But I'll bet you we all have a similar conversation with kids and grandkids. And that is, your kid's going to say, wait, you mean there's a real person named Madden? You mean that guy really exists? He invented the game? And then you're going to get a chance to tell the story. You are. I bet Google searches of John Madden, I bet they just skyrocket. Because there's a whole generation that has no clue about the stuff that I'm talking about. So here you go. 10 consecutive winning seasons with the Raiders. They won a Super Bowl. Was it Super Bowl 11? He retired in 1978 as the youngest coach ever to win 100 games. Right? We think of Madden, who's always looked like hell most of his life. You don't realize how young he was as a head coach and how successful he was. He became a color commentator in like 79 or 80. And he died in December of 2021 at the age of 85. Al Davis died in 2011. So Christian Bale's going to play Al Davis. The film's cast includes John Mulaney as tech entrepreneur Trip Hawkins. I don't know. I guess that's one of the original creators. You know, the story goes they met on a train because Madden wouldn't fly. That's another crazy story. He was in a plane crash in college, so he wouldn't fly. So they met on a train. Catherine Hahn is Madden's wife, Virginia. Sienna Miller is Davis's wife, Carol. It's going to be directed by, this is why it's got a chance. I mean, you can't screw this up. David O. Russell, who did Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle, and I love American Hustle. He produced and wrote the project. The movie is shooting now. The release date has not yet been determined. I think it's interesting because I think Madden is interesting. And I think we could debate, I'm happy to debate all day about Madden's impact and how it weaves its way through your life, right? I mean, when you think about watching games at a certain point in the 80s and the 90s, you heard Madden's voice. You heard him goofing around. I mean, it's just it was iconic. And then we can't get away from the game. It keeps coming back in better in forms and then there's probably, a generation of people that remember the Raiders and all that came with them and Madden in that place. So there you go. I provided a list.